camera later. So, good morning, welcome back. I think we're on session 6 now of the 126 Collective. And I have been waiting to teach about Caleb because I love Caleb. And I have this vision in my mind of this little, like he's little, but obviously I don't think he's probably little. He was a great warrior, but in my mind he's like a little 85-year-old man, and he's just standing there at the border of the promised land saying, "Give me my mountain." And I have that vision of him. So let's see if that's what shows up for Caleb. So anyway, I'm going to get started with our verse. Oh, I guess I better, for those of you that did not have a chance to get the handout already, let me put that in there first. Did anybody do the extra credit and go back and do the extra study that we talked about last week? There is so much richness. Somebody posted, I think it was on LinkedIn, they said, it's kind of crazy, how, but they didn't say it that way, how God actually wove so many great principles into the Bible, in terms of even business and leadership. And I think it's a beautiful thing because it's an ancient text. And one of the things I love about the Bible is you could read it and read it and read it some more, and you will never plumb the depths of what is there. And I'm amazed all the time at how every time I go back to a text again and again, I just learn so much more. And you can approach it from different angles. The ancient Israelites, the Jewish people, believe that when you study scripture, you should be able to take it, pull it apart, argue about it from a lot of different directions. That's called midrash in the Jewish tradition. And so they would have a lot of fun just diving deep into what were the meanings of the scripture, what were the meanings in the Old Testament of God's word. And I love doing that because you can study this book, every day for the rest of your life, and you'll never get to the bottom of it. And it will speak to you differently, depending on where you are in your life in that particular moment. And so I don't know. I love it. It's one of my favorite texts to study, just because it is that rich. So anyway, let's talk about Caleb. So let me go ahead. I'll go ahead and share my screen just so you guys will see what I am reading from here. And I put it in the chat, the link. Okay. So this is from the book of Joshua. And oh, that is supposed to be 6-14, not 6014. So you can make that correction. But that's where we are. And I chose the New King James Version for this translation because of a specific word that we will unpack a little bit today. So I'll start here in verse 6. Then the children of Judah came to Joshua in Gilgal, and Caleb, the son of Jephunneh the Kenizzite, said to him, "You know the word which the Lord said to Moses, the man of God, concerning you and me in Kadesh Barnea. I was 40 years old when Moses, the servant of the Lord, sent me from Kadesh Barnea to spy out the land. And I brought back word to him as it was in my heart. Nevertheless, my brethren who went up with me made the heart of the people melt." Put a pin in that, because it doesn't mean like melt like when I see Johnny Depp. It's a different kind of melting heart. "But I wholly followed the Lord my God. So Moses swore on that day, saying, 'Surely the land where your foot has trodden shall be your inheritance and your children's forever, because you have wholly followed the Lord my God. And now, behold, the Lord has kept me alive, as he said, these 45 years, ever since the Lord spoke this word to Moses while Israel wandered in the wilderness. And now here I am this day, 85 years old. And yet I am as strong this day as on the day that Moses sent me. Just as my strength was then, so now is my strength for war, both for going out and for coming in. Now, therefore, give me this mountain of which the Lord spoke in that day. For you heard in that day how the Anakim were there, and that the cities were great and fortified. It may be that the Lord will be with me, and I shall be able to drive them out, as the Lord said. And Joshua blessed him and gave Hebron to Caleb, the son of Jephunneh, as an inheritance. Hebron therefore became the inheritance of Caleb, the son of Jephunneh the Kenizzite, to this day, because he wholly followed the Lord God of Israel. So I love this. So if we just go back a little bit, the melting heart of the people, imagine that their courage, their strength, and their willingness they just melted. Not in a good way. They became as water. They had no strength in them. And so we'll talk a little bit about that. But so Caleb was 40 years old, and now here he is, some 45 years later, ready to take the land that was promised to him. So I love Caleb, and we're going to talk a little bit about how that works. So let's go to the law of the lid, the law of the lid. So you guys should be able to access that link there. I'm putting it again in the chat. You can go right there to that. And let's talk about Caleb. So my big idea for this week is that great leaders aren't defined by position or age or by background, but by a relentless commitment to their vision. So let's talk a little bit about Caleb. Caleb was not a natural insider. He was not an Israelite by birth. He was a Kenizzite. That's made very clear there. So he is from Judah, okay, which is one of the tribes and of Israel, but it's more likely that he was grafted in. So he was brought into the tribe of Judah, which makes it even more exciting to me that he began to serve and serve so faithfully when he wasn't a nepo baby. Is that what they call it? No nepotism here. He was an outsider, but he became an Israelite, if you will, by practice, which means that he would have been circumcised and he would have followed the God of Israel. So here's the truth: your background does not qualify or disqualify you. It's not your background; it's your commitment. It's your commitment. And just because I love a good alliteration, I said Caleb wasn't chosen because of his pedigree, but because of his posture. Because of his posture. So my point here is that all of us are capable of leading. We're all capable of being successful. It doesn't matter what our education level or our experience or whether we've ever done it before. It's really about being committed to a vision, to something larger than ourselves. And taking that posture of faithfulness, of commitment, of perseverance, all the things that we can learn from somebody like Caleb. So our first point here is what you choose to see drives your strategy. And one of the things I love, Tony Robbins will say, leaders see things as they are, but not worse than they are, and not better than they are either. Leaders also see things the way that they want them to be, and then leaders take the steps to make things the way they want them to be. And so Caleb made that choice to see something different. So we're going to back up a little bit to Numbers, chapters 13 and 14. You can go back and read that. But essentially, Moses sends Caleb, Joshua, and 10 other spies, if you will, one from each of the tribes, out to look through the promised land and spy it out. Here they are. They're at the edge of the promised land. Going to take the land that God has promised them. They've only recently been released from slavery in Egypt, and these 12 spies go out. So when Caleb and Joshua come back, they're like, it's a land flowing with milk and honey. I mean, they brought this giant cluster of grapes and some of the things that they've seen there. And they are like, yes, there's giants living there, but God is on our side. We can take this land. And the other 10 spies, really try to dissuade the people and tell them you wouldn't believe the size of these warriors and their chariots, and there's no way we can take them, and there's just no way we're going to win. And so ultimately, the people side with the 10 spies, not with Caleb and Joshua. And so they do not cross into the promised land at that point. And Caleb says, yeah, but did you see the size of the grapes? Yeah, these were huge. So anyway, thus begins the next 40 years of wandering in the desert. But that's the way the story goes. So two leaders can look at the same thing. Two leaders can look at the same shift in the market. They can look at the same competition out there. They can look at the same economic and political indicators. And one says, no way, too risky, let's pull back. And the other says, absolutely, there's great opportunity. Surely we can take it. Because that's what they said. Surely we can take it. So I want to just sort of pause here for a moment and think about what's happening. So I work with a lot of real estate professionals. You may be one. But whether you're a real estate professional or you're in some other business right now, most of the people that are going to end up on these calls with me are business owners, business leaders, and frankly, many of them are going to be solopreneurs. So like we're running our own shows here. And so there's a lot of things that could factor into whether our customers are buying what we're selling. And so my question is, just by show of hands, how many of you believe that what you sell is actually a necessity, like a house or like leadership, right? Coaching, different things like that. Yeah, most of us, I think, are people that are selling something that we consider a necessity. I thought about this a lot this week. When I was a younger person, there were two kind of main sources of, I'm using air quotes for news because I think we all know we can't trust our eyes anymore. You don't even know if what you're seeing out there is actually happening or if it's AI generated. But we got the evening news. I don't know about you, but when I was younger, I worked full time. My husband worked full time. We had the kids, so we'd get up in the morning. If you put the news on in the morning, it was mostly like weather, traffic, and a cooking segment. Why? Because not a lot happened overnight. So, you just kind of got the noise in the background. So we were just listening for traffic reports and the weather so we could dress the kids accordingly. Then, you got home from work and you put on the evening news. And then you sort of saw what happened in the world, what happened locally, and then you kind of moved on about your business. Um, and maybe you were one of those people that read the newspaper. If you read the newspaper, you knew a little bit more because it was obviously more articles there. But other than that, you kind of didn't really know what was going on out there. And so, what was happening? Wars. You know what was happening? Natural disasters. You know what was happening? Political unrest. You know what was happening? Foreign policy stuff. Like all kinds of stuff was happening, but it didn't so much affect your day to day. Now we get information, and I can't even say information. What do I want to say? Stuff, data, words, images. We have all this stuff just coming at us 24/7. And some of us actually believe it's the news, like it's what's actually happening out there. And so now markets will find themselves, or segments of the market, freezing anything because they're so aware of what's happening. Well, you can't buy a house. I mean, we're about to go into World War III, or I can't hire a coach right now because this could be a tough year because interest rates are probably not going to come any lower, and you hear all the things. And it's like people are making decisions about important things based on what they think is happening out there. I'm not saying some of it's not happening. Obviously, it is. But I just believe that our using what's going on out there to drive our day-to-day decisions about our lives and our businesses, it's probably a fool's errand. Like, is anybody with me on that? Because the same stuff's happening. It feels different. Okay, every generation says the same thing. This is different. It's not different. It's the same. It's the same thing. And yet I do believe that is your opportunity, whatever you sell, to have a real honest conversation with people when they say, hey, I'm not going to make a decision about this because of what's going on over there, out there, in that continent or wherever, that you could have a conversation with them about, look, There's a lot of things going on. There always have been a lot of things going on. The bottom line is, if we're talking about the market, the stock market, it only cares about one thing, earnings. People got to go to work. People are going to earn salaries. People are going to probably continue to earn more. Yes, some people got to reroute and go a different direction because their job is going to shift. It's no different than the people who made horse and buggies. And then Henry Ford came along and developed the car. They had to figure out something else to do. I'm not minimizing it. I'm just saying we do. As a species, we generally find a way to find a way. We're pretty good at that, or else we wouldn't be here. And so I think that it's important to understand that two leaders can look at the same thing and make two different choices. So my question for you is, what are you looking at? What are you looking at? So, in uncertain markets, average leaders contract, but great leaders reposition and expand strategically. Strategically. That's your key word there, right? Underline strategically. So, I want you to take a minute and just write down an answer to this. Where are you shrinking right now? When you should be adjusting and advancing, can you think of, even if it's just one small area, where you feel like right now you should be taking ground, but you're pulling back? Maybe you're riding the same wave as some of your customers who were saying, gosh, I don't know if now is a good time to buy whatever you're selling because, war, or because, interest rates, or because, the economy, or because, gas prices. Pick something, fill it in. I mean, I can think back through my lifetime. We've been through wars and high gas prices. Anybody stood in line or sat in line? I mean, I was a kid, but sat in line for gas back in the 70s. I mean, we've been through all this before. History repeats itself. Or maybe it doesn't repeat itself, but it sure does rhyme. Like, yeah. So where do you need to stop holding back and take a stance? Got something? Because I'm going to ask for shares in a little bit. All right, so let's talk about the law of solid ground. You got to trust your convictions over the crowd. Listen, leadership is not a popularity contest. As a coach in the last 15, 16 years, I have coached people who believed that leadership was a popularity contest. What John Maxwell would call that is level 2 leadership. That is permission-based leadership, meaning people follow you because they want to, they like you. And the problem with that is if you can only lead people who like you, what does that require you to be? Likable all day, every day. Raise your hand if you believe, Eric, keep your hand down because you're the smart ass in the crowd. Raise your hand if you believe that you are truly likable all day, every day. Yeah, no hand is going up. But if you believe that you can only lead people who like you, or that you need to be popular to be a leader, you know, I don't even want to give any names, but sometimes the best leaders are the ones that are willing to risk being very unpopular in the moment because they got to make tough decisions. And that's what Caleb did. He spoke up when everybody else was backing down. These other 10 spies said the people are so big they make us look like grasshoppers. Like that's how big these giants are. And so it was so bad against Caleb because he's really the one that spoke up, even though Joshua was supportive as well. But the people threatened to stone him. Like it almost cost him his life. I don't know if you guys have ever thought about stoning. It's a very common way of putting people to death in the 4,000 years ago, and even as far back as 2,000 years ago. I read this recently. Did you know that when people were stoned, their hands were often bound behind their back, so they couldn't even protect themselves? It's a horrible way to die. It's very brutal. And the people were going to stone him for his insistence that they take the land because who was on their side? Well, God himself. But anyway, but he didn't care. He stepped up anyway. So you're going to have moments as a leader when people are hesitant, when people are cautious, when the industry narrative is negative. I work a lot with people in the real estate industry, and boy, I tell you, if you run your business based on the vibes coming out of the real estate industry as a whole, you'd be on a roller coaster because it depends on who you're listening to. So it depends on who you're listening to. And I know many other markets, many other segments of the market are the same way. So make decisions based on conviction and data. Of course, your conviction should be based on the data that you compile and not consensus. So the market rewards leaders who act, not those who wait for agreement. So I'm going to ask you a question. What's your gut telling you right now that you need to be doing in your business? And if you're a person of faith, are you placing your business on the altar every day and asking God to help you make a decision when it's hard? Or are you asking him to guide your decision no matter what it is? If you're a person of faith, then that's that's the ultimate source of your conviction. We're going to talk a little bit about kingdom business, but I want to know right now, where are you waiting for validation instead of making a decision? If you can think of something there, write it down. And a lot of the people that are going to be on this call have a coach, or they are a coach who has a coach. There are people that enlist the support of other people to help them make tough decisions. But there's still some of those things we feel like we just don't have enough information yet, or we need somebody, we need a sign, whatever it might be. But we really need to be able to tap into that inner conviction that comes when you are clear about your vision. Okay. So let's talk about the law of process. Leadership develops daily, not in a day. Nobody's an overnight leader. Nobody's a born leader. Like the Bible is filled, we've already studied many of them, of people that became leaders that weren't necessarily born that way. Moses is a great example. We talked about Moses. But the truth is that long-term vision beats short-term emotion every day of the week. The Bible is very clear about not trusting your heart because it's a liar. It's a little liar. It just wants to feel good, you know. But anyway, in today's reading, we learn that decades later, Caleb goes to Joshua and he goes, "Hey, I'm just letting you know," because remember, Moses is dead at this point. Moses is gone. He has died. Moses does not get to enter the promised land because although Moses was a great leader and certainly did some wonderful things when he allowed God to be his leader, ultimately Moses's pride got the better of him. And when God told him to speak to the rock so that water could come out, Moses decided to hit the rock with his staff and say to the people, "Do you want me to get you water too?" Like, uh-oh, that's not really good. So Moses was banned from entering the promised land, and he did die at a good old age. But now they're ready to take the land, and Caleb wants to make sure Joshua does not forget. So Caleb is proof that conviction that's grounded in something bigger than you enables you to lead people even when it's uncertain. Because truthfully, if you and I let the politics of the day, foreign policy, the government, economy, interest rates, gas prices, or anything else, if we let that, our own emotional take on what's going on, or what we think could be happening, like we're all trying to see around the corner at all times. If we can't lead ourselves through uncertainty, we're not going to lead our teams through uncertainty. But when we have that conviction and that faith in something bigger than us, then we're able to take the steps we need to take each day. So I want to talk about the difference between average leaders and high-level leaders. I just want you to score yourself. Without judgment, just ask yourself, where am I? Because average leaders do start strong. I mean, they're ready. They're gung-ho. But 45 years later, you know what I mean? Whatever your 45 years is. But high-level leaders stay focused on the long-term vision. So this will come up in our discussion today, but sometimes we start strong and then I'm one of those people, by the way. I'm very high variety driven. We could talk about the six human needs. Danielle, you'll fill me on this one. I'm very high variety driven. I like change. I like new things. That's why this kind of work is so exciting to me because I'm just diving deeper and learning something new, presenting something new. But I get bored super fast, you know? That's a that's a personal problem. It has caused me some lots of hurt in my life, but I love change. I love it. So I'm one of those people that could easily start strong and then run out of steam. I just know that about myself. So hopefully I can make sure that I'm aware and get the support that I need to stay focused. Average leaders get distracted, and high level leaders execute consistently, even when it's boring. It's boring. A lot of people think that some of the work that they do is hard, and what they really don't understand is not hard, it's just boring. Lead generation can be boring. Reaching out to people, putting together your newsletters, calling people, scheduling events and things like that. It can really get boring. And people think it's hard. It's not. So, you got to be able to execute consistently. Even the most successful people are the people who do the boring stuff so consistently that they get results. Average leaders chase the next shiny object. That's one of my tendencies. But high level leaders build systems that can actually scale. So yeah, you can go explore some new things, but you better have your systems and your people in place so that your business can scale while you explore some new opportunities. And of course, average leaders quit when the results lag. I mean, how many people do you know that have gotten into your business that they start strong, they're super excited, they maybe go out and spend a lot of money on a website and some business cards and headshots, and then, they're doing some of the work and it's just not coming together. And it's like the seed, right before it was about to pop through, they quit. Right? This happens in every business, I can assure you. But high level leaders do not allow their emotions to distract them or dissuade them. They don't. So my question to you is, what are you building that's going to matter in 10 years? What are you building that's going to matter in 10 years? And if you don't have an answer to that question, get into conversation with someone because you might be in the wrong business, or you might just not have been taking the time to consistently step out of your business and really look at what it is you are trying to build. Yeah? Okay, so let's talk about the law of the rubber band, and then we're going to get into some shares with this one. The law of the rubber band says growth stops when you lose the stretch, right? And rubber band's only as good as when it can stretch, right? So age is not the limiter here. In doing this research, I was having a conversation with someone, and they told me that retirement is not a biblical concept, and I was like, what? But it's not. I mean, Caleb didn't retire. He was 85. Moses was like 110 or something like, right? You rarely hear stories in the Bible when they talk about the lifetime of someone up until the very end, they were still doing whatever it was that God was had planned for them to do. So it's not this principle we read about in the Bible that people retire and get a fishing pole or start knitting and just sit on their rocking, in their rocking chair and do nothing all day. So Caleb is still going. And not only is he still going, he wants the hard assignment because the hill country, the mountain that he referred to, and that's what I love is that most of the other translations say hill country, but Caleb saw it as a mountain. That's why I love that New King James Version's translation because, he wants this mountain. He doesn't want this flat land, a valley, the all of that. He wants the one with the giants. He's willing to take it. He believes that with God at his side, he can do this. And so Caleb wants the mountain. He wants the hardest assignment. So he didn't have this superhuman genetics. He just had a vision. He had a vision, and he never let go of that vision. So in business, people plateau because they get comfortable. Been there. I've been there. People plateau because they rely on their past wins, you know, or they stop taking bold risks. So I don't know what causes people to plateau. I'm curious right now what causes you to plateau because I'll give us our fill in the blanks here. Your experience should make you bolder, not safer. And the moment you start protecting your position, you stop growing. Some people are afraid to scale, build a team, hire people to assist them because ultimately they're afraid that, well, for so many things, and we've talked about some of these already, but some of that time it's a fear that what if I hire somebody that's actually better than me? What if I'm actually just a fraud? This imposter syndrome idea that I'm not really all that good, and maybe I've just been lucky, or I've just known the right people. But if I bring other people on, they're going to expect me to be able to help them become successful, and I'm not even really sure what's made me successful. I know I'm not doing the consistent things that need to be done. Like this is very, very common. But I don't want us to stop growing. I want us to take bold risks. So my question for you is, what else can you think of? Because I want to add to my list here that has caused you or somebody you know, asking for a friend, to plateau. So if something comes to mind, feel free to pop on here and share with us. What causes us to get to that place where we're just sort of flat? What you got, Danielle?
I was just thinking, uh, not bringing in, for example, what we're doing here, not bringing in new fertilizer for new
Mhm.
thought patterns. I'm not putting myself, or not so much, not putting myself in a different environment, even just going somewhere else for just breaking the pattern. That if we keep doing that, we forget because it's comfortable or just
Yeah.
but proximity to a new space, a new thought, a new idea, a new book, a new course. And it's not just about doing, it's about just exposing with the intention of an inspiration for a new action, not just for doing.
Yeah, it's so important. Let's go back to the rubber band analogy, right? Like I've got a rubber band right here. This is just a useless thing. It's only good, like I can't, like it's not do anything around my pen. It has to be wrapped tight around something, and it can be useful. And so it can be easy, like you said, to sort of get into the space with the same people, the same thoughts, the same ideas, because it is comfortable. And oh gosh, I got to learn a new thing and new language, new technology, new whatever. I mean, this other stuff's worked up until now, but you're not getting that fertilizer. That's a great analogy. To fertilize some new thoughts. And yes, breaking the pattern. Believe me, it's easy. And it's that fine line between having too many voices and not having enough. And I think that's part of the stretch, right? Who are the voices I'm allowing to speak into me? If you're talking about business strategy, there's a million and one ideas out there. There was a conference that I attended recently, and one of the key speakers is in your face, rip it, run, push through walls, and the other one is like more like a Zen monk guy. So it's like, well, which one? Do you rip it? Do you bust through the wall, or do you sit back and meditate? Like, so you got to find the right voices. But yeah, that willingness to stretch, that's good because it's easy to get comfortable. It's easy to get comfortable. So where have you started playing defense instead of offense? And maybe that doesn't resonate with you right now. But sometimes it can feel that way, especially if there's a lot of information coming in. If you've got so many voices. I tell my clients all the time when you're asking your colleagues or leaders in your field what they do, the minute that they say to you what you need to do is like, then you stop listening to them. When they say what has worked for me, or some things I've tried that didn't work, are this. I want to hear what they have to say. But as soon as they're in my face telling me you need to whatever, I'm just curious, like how, you don't really know me. You don't know my business strategy. You don't know my goals. You don't know my values. I'm more interested in what you've done that worked, or honestly, sometimes more interested in what you've done that didn't work. I don't want to make your mistakes, you know? So think about that. Where have you been playing defense instead of offense? And then, of course, as I came up with this question, I thought there's got to be a better way to phrase this. But I'm not asking you to make an offensive move. I'm asking you to make an offensive move. Please read that correctly. That is not a typo. So if you can think, is there one thing that you need to do, and you know you need to do it, and it would be a move for the offense, not the defense. That's a very different place to be. Okay, so if you can think of something like one thing, one small thing, maybe it's one phone call. Maybe it is removing some apps from your phone. I mean, I had a call with a client last week, and the main thing was, how do I get all these apps off my phone? Now, I'm not making fun of this person. We're all guilty, but right? How do I get these apps off my phone? We're all so addicted. Remember my analogy? Once upon a time, the morning news, you got the weather, a cooking segment, and the traffic. In the evening news, you got some hoodly ha-has going on, and then you moved on. You took care of your kids and went to bed and got up and did it all again the next day. And now we have this information that comes at us from all different directions, and it's affecting us. So what's something you can do? Okay, let's talk about the law of explosive growth. Leaders who develop leaders multiply opportunity. So, by the way, in case you didn't see that, I've got the little meaning of that law at the bottom of the page there. So, you got to go where others won't go. Caleb wanted the land with giants, he wanted the mountain. That's where the giants were. And he didn't ask for the valley or the safe thing, he wanted it. So, sometimes our opportunities are in a neglected market. Sometimes they're in difficult niches, ones that other people don't want to serve. Or sometimes it's just we're willing to go and help solve the problems that other people will avoid trying to solve. You know, so easy markets or crowded markets? Anybody ever been feeling like you're fishing in you know, what is it? Shooting fish in a barrel, you know? It's like it's easy. Well, if you're in real estate, 2020, 2021 was whoop whoop. It was easy, but it was crowded. Everybody thought they could be a realtor, and even the shitty ones, excuse my language, sold some real estate back then. So it was crowded. And I don't know about you, I'm not really interested in a crowded market. So hard markets are equal high reward. But here, underline this. For those who execute, for those who execute. It if you know that it's a hard market, you're not going to get the reward unless you're willing to execute on it. So it could be these are complex projects other people avoid. It could be a different type of clientele that other people are not serving. It could be for you building systems. There are a lot of people that are quite, quote, successful in business who do it by the sheer grit and hustle, and they work 7 days a week and pretty much 20 hours a day. And so you look at them and they may be successful, they may be able to throw a lot of big numbers on the board, but they have no quality of life because they refuse to build systems. I presented at a conference a month or so ago, and one of the people that was presenting with me was very proud to admit she had zero systems. And she's in real estate. She sells a lot of real estate. She has no life. She has no life. It was very sad to me. But you know, I don't want, I'm tired of relying on hustle. I don't know about you, but I'm over the hustle. Hustle culture is like tip culture. Like, why are we tipping the drive-through at McDonald's? Like, I'm over that too. Like, what are we doing in America? Okay, but you got to be able to expand when your competition is retreating. So, in order for us to make these decisions, going where other people won't go, for example, who is speaking into us? Who's giving us that confidence? Who's helping us tap into that? Who's helping us do the due diligence to discover if this other market is one that we should be chasing. So, my question for you is what is the giant territory that you're avoiding that could actually help grow your business? Maybe for you, it is building a team, stepping into a role of leadership. Maybe it is focusing on your team instead of focusing on your customers. Maybe it is a new demographic of a market, whatever your business is that you haven't thought about serving. Now, I'm not saying blindly go into it. Remember, Caleb went into the land and spied it out. 40 days, the magic 40, 40 days, he was there. He got a pretty good picture of that mountain. All the giants, yes, he saw the Anakim and he saw the people there. He saw the fortified cities. That means they have walls around them. He saw the giant grapes. Yeah, he saw the beautiful land flowing with milk and honey. So he didn't just blindly ask for the mountain. It was a calculated risk that he was willing to take. So if there's a giant territory that you have been considering, who can you reach out to say, let's talk this through? Ask me the questions that are going to help me self-discover whether or not this is the market I should be going after. And then maybe it's time for some explosive growth. All right, let's talk about the law of addition. The law of addition says that leaders add value by serving others. So let's talk about Caleb and Joshua. So Caleb never fought Joshua, by the way. And if you know the story, after Moses dies, Joshua is chosen as his successor. Joshua is going to lead the people into the promised land. Of those original 12 spies, Joshua and Caleb are the only ones that will enter the promised land. In fact, none of the adult males who were brought out of Egypt as slaves, none of those adult males ever entered the promised land. They all died by natural causes, plagues, punishments, all the things. And none of them got to cross over except Caleb and Joshua. And Joshua was ultimately chosen as the leader. Caleb never fights Joshua. He serves submissively to Joshua. He respects Joshua. He honors him. Okay. And so Caleb led his own tribe under Joshua's leadership, if you will, under Joshua's authority. So secure leaders empower others. We talked about that last session with Jethro after his when he advised his son-in-law to create additional leaders who could take on some of those cases. So as a leader, are you secure enough to support others? Are you secure enough to lead when you're needed, but share your wins with the team, for example? So authentic leadership isn't about personal advancement. It's about serving the larger mission. And that's how trust is built in organizations. So if you're on this call, there's a chance that you are a believer, that you're a follower of Jesus. And if you're not, good, I hope you're here because these are some great principles that you can still apply. Whether they lead you to a personal relationship with the Lord or not is kind of up to him. Although, there's a lot of us that would be happy to help you do that. But I want you to think for a minute about what I like to call kingdom work. Kingdom is my word for 2026. I want to do everything I do for the kingdom of God. And so most of my clients, well, that's not true. All of my clients are doing kingdom work. And what I mean by that is they are serving the larger community. If you're a realtor, people need a home. Like no matter what's going on out there, home is the safe place. Home is the place to come to, whether you've done hard work all day serving your client and you just want a safe place to land, whether you are going through a tough season. My mother has been diagnosed with dementia, so like home feels really particularly safe and special to me right now because I'm spending a lot of time out of it helping her. So if that's what you do, you're doing kingdom work. If you're coaching other people, if you're leading teams, you're doing kingdom work because hopefully your business is serving the larger community. And so when you're doing kingdom work, you need kingdom workers. You need people on your team who want to serve the the work that you're doing to serve the larger community. And so I believe that means leadership is about addition. That's why I chose the law of addition here. So here would be some questions for you just to ask yourself. Do you need recognition to lead well? Some people, part of the reason they lead is because they like the accolades, they like the trophies, they like the titles, they like the certificates, the awards, and the public recognition. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with those things, but if your ability to lead is based on whether or not you're going to be recognized for it, you might want to rethink that. You might want to rethink that. That may not be true kingdom work. You may still be able to enjoy recognition. There's a lot of us that love the good pat on the back. We might not mind a trophy now and again, and some public recognition. And some of us want the pat on the back, but private recognition. We all need to be encouraged, but our leadership shouldn't depend on whether or not we're going to be recognized for it. Because remember, Caleb served under Joshua. And so then my second question there is, where can you lend a hand to another leader? Who else do you know that leads in some way that might need a hand from you? Could be somebody on your team. It could be somebody in your industry. It could be somebody at your church, somebody in your neighborhood. Another parent who's leading at the school, whatever it might be. Lend a hand to another leader, because that's how we grow. We got to serve others. And then who is one great leader you could actually learn from? Can you think of somebody out there that is a great leader? It doesn't matter whether they're in your industry or if they're in any industry. They could be a leader in the community that you could reach out to and ask, how can I serve you? Because I'd love to learn from you. So what can I do to support you so that I can come alongside you and learn how you do what you do? Believe you me, great leaders would love to share what they do with you because they truly understand the law of addition. So maybe you can take that step. All right, and our last point is number 7, the law of buy-in. People support what they help build. So accountability is a power move, right? Probably a lot of you have a coach. Some of you are a coach. Like this is, you understand this, that one of the greatest honors about being a coach is being with people who are willing to be accountable. They're willing to be accountable. Boy, we go back to our second session on the parable of the talents. They're not trying to be responsible for everybody and everything, but they are willing to be accountable to what's been entrusted to them. So when Caleb goes to Joshua to demand that mountain, he brings people from his tribe to testify to that. So certainly if he hadn't been leading with accountability, they would have thrown him under the bus right then and there. Because remember, they got to go with him. So these are people that have to trust that he's going to be able to take that mountain and overcome those giants, right? And break through those fortified cities to take the land that God had promised them. So strong leaders welcome oversight. Weak leaders avoid accountability. If you got somebody on your team that is not willing to be accountable, there's your sign. There's your sign, okay? Weak leaders operate in silos. It's not my job. This is my job, and that's not my job. But strong leaders enlist the support of others. Weak leaders justify their poor performance. Strong leaders track their metrics. They got to know what works and what doesn't work. And then this is a typo, my apologies. Weak leaders blame others. I wish it was just other. But weak leaders blame anybody. And strong leaders own their results. They own their results. Good, bad, or indifferent. How do we get better if we're not willing to own what we've done? So what gets measured gets improved. If we're not willing to measure it, we're probably not going to improve it. It doesn't happen accidentally. So where do you need more structure? Maybe more tracking, more accountability, more coaching? Where do you need it? And then I guess I should have asked the follow-up, where are you willing to go get it? What has to happen in order for you to make that commitment to become more accountable? Because I can assure you that if you have a team or if you're going to build a team, If they can't buy into what you're doing, they're not going to follow you. So you need to lead by example. You need to lead by example. All right, and our I want to wrap it up here, and we should have a few minutes for conversation here. The law of intentionality. Growth doesn't just happen. It's nobody accidentally grows. In business and in life, there's always going to be those 10 spy voices, right? It's too hard, the market's too tough, it's not the time, this is not going to work here, it won't work for us. You know, we've heard them all. I've said them all. I mean, honestly, if I'm being honest. But then there's the Caleb voice. Caleb said, "Let's go. We're well able. We're well able to take this land." So, I'm going to give us our fill in the blanks, and then I want to open the mics here in case anybody wants to share. The market doesn't reward hesitation, it rewards leadership. And leadership starts with a decision. Am I going to think like the 10 or am I going to lead like the 2? So, where's an area that you need to think bigger or decide faster or act bolder? And I know we've had a few people drop off here, but if you're still on and you've got some thoughts on that, would you be willing to share with the team?
Angie, I want something I'm focusing on is because I had a big resistance to it, and I had a lot of limiting, restrictive beliefs. But as a remedy, I'm jumping into AI and just, learning more about it. And one of the things that keeps me motivated, because one of my drivers is service. I'm sharing what I'm learning, and it keeps me excited about learning more because that's something that lights me up. So even though in and of myself, I wouldn't necessarily dive into it, but it's really fun to share the information, then go in and get more, learn more. And so by knowing myself at this season of my life, the fact that I can share it as quickly as I can keeps me in, and I'm getting more and more comfortable with the concept how I'm going to incorporate it, and just learning more about the AI agents and how much they really are adding to the systems, because I'm a systems person, and so it's the whole, there's a lot of where places to buy in. So, and it's here either way, whether I
Yeah.
participate or not, it's here either way. So that's something that uh, thinking bigger, it's definitely, I had to make a decision to do it because the narrative was very comfortable, and it didn't need to do it, but that also is going to limit me. It's going to limit my service. It's going to limit all sorts of things. So anyway, and it is a bold act for me because it involves, an area that I could just hire somebody, and ultimately I will, but I'm going to be much more educated, juicing myself up, sharing the information that I can hire and reward accordingly, given this is the way of it.
Yeah, I love that. I listened to a podcast just the other day with the Christian Chamber of Commerce. Her name is Crystal Parker. She founded the Christian Chamber of Commerce, and she interviewed a guy who was speaking at their upcoming convention, and he's an AI guy. And what he said was, because, she addressed that issue that some people are saying, oh my gosh, is this safe? And, what is it going to turn into? All of the usual things every time a new technology comes about. And certainly it has a capability to be used for good or not. But what he said was, what's so important for Christians to understand, Christian business owners, that AI, the large language models, up until this point, have scoured over 1 million websites and over 1 billion books. Now, I'm saying those numbers, and I think the billion is correct. But they've read, millions and billions of books and websites and things that, I mean, I'm sorry, but you and I just don't have time. If we go to the library today, we can't read all the books in the rest of our lifetime. And it has done that. So to be able to access that level of information is pretty incredible. as a time saver so that you can go do the important work that God put you here to do, which is to help people like me become more successful at what I do. Instead of you doing more and more research and studying more and more things, that is one of the beautiful things about AI. Yes, tasks and writing things and all of that, that's important too. But just having access to content that, that you just, frankly, none of us have time in the day. And how do we even know where to start? But just knowing that it is, it's able to do some things, and then, oh my goodness, it doesn't even take into account what it can do in terms of finances and all of these other things that can help you run your business. So, but yeah, so it frees you up to do your kingdom work because your kingdom work is probably not reading another book. And you and I had this discussion. We're readers. I love, give me a book. I'm reading, 4 or 5 all the time anyway. And I'm not going to stop reading books. But let's face it, sometimes I need a piece of information and that will be able to get that for me so I can do what I'm here to do.
Yeah, and the whole part about the agents, just even hearing about agents working with brokers and buying properties and just all the things that, there's when I didn't do something because I wasn't necessarily wanted to hire to do it, but there's now might be hiring someone to manage that. But that actually feels even better because
Yeah.
everybody wins because that person loves that kind of work. And anyway, just there's a lot more potential of
Yeah.
more with more precision of the systems.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. And it goes back to that example, that we always talk about. Horse and buggy makers didn't, this isn't fair. I refuse to drive a car because horse and buggies were the way to go. Like,
Yeah.
time marches on and technology changes. My goodness. There's probably not a one of us alive who wants to be washing our clothes on a rock down at the river. So, you know, let's figure it out. That's awesome. I'm so excited. Yeah, and I'm excited to learn from you on some of that. Save me a step. Anyway, awesome. Well, it was great to see everybody again. And if you're watching this on replay, if you have any questions, you can reach out to me directly or through the Mighty Network app. And I will see you guys on our next session.
Thank you.